Whoa, I'm Chad Nash, and I'm with Nasdaq. At Nasdaq, we created a trading bot to enter and exit the market with the best settings, so that the bot can trade on your behalf and you can get your time back. Stop letting the big Wall Street guys win while you're stuck trading manually with emotion. Do you ever find yourself trading and then suddenly realize that you're changing your stop losses and your targets, or you start to get emotional and maybe enter at the wrong times when you know you shouldn't? Well, we understand that because we've been there. And with 15 years of software experience and several years of day trading experience, we created the perfect bot for this situation. Epic Follow will trigger trades based on the best significant correlation setups to enter or exit trades and be ahead of the crowd so that you can get your time back. Today we are going to be covering Epic Follow. It's one of my favorite strategies that we have out there, and I'll get into all the reasons why here in a second. But it deals with correlation between two different instruments and entering a position when there's a major change in one of those instruments and there hasn't been a major change in the other. We'll get into details on correlation and all of the things around the setup here in a second. Before we get started, this is just a quick reminder that we are a third-party certified vendor of NinjaTrader, but we are not directly related to NinjaTrader. They don't endorse our products. We are not, they don't recommend our products, etc. Basically, just have to add this disclaimer in there, making sure that you know NinjaTrader is a separate company. We build on top of that platform. We love the platform, but we are not directly affiliated in any way with NinjaTrader, as far as ownership, things like that. So, with that said, let's just go ahead and get started with some of the discussions around this topic. Correlation between two different instruments. You can think of this a lot whenever you're trading equities. If you're day trading equities and all of a sudden you see all of your long positions are down, your short positions are up, you just realize, and you're always too late to the game, but you realize, oh, this means that the indexes are taking a dump at the moment, right? So by the time this is happening, you don't really want to exit your position usually. Because it's, usually the play's over by then. And, all of the high-speed computing and the big Wall Street guys, you don't want to let them win, but that's really what's happening here because you're late to the game and you see when everything else is taking a dump, you just don't have time to enter. So Epic Follow is great because it's great for algo trading, and you can see how it applies to many, many different things, right? So what happens when Bitcoin really takes a dump? Does that affect Ethereum? What happens when there's a major jump in the S&P? Does that affect the NQ? Does that affect gold? Does that affect oil, right? What other futures or forex, pairs, things like that are affected? And can you get in time for those? So another reason I really love this is it works on so many different time frames, and a lot of these time frames are not even 15-minute charts. Sometimes a lot of this are based on hourly, daily, sometimes weekly charts, right? When there's big movements in gold, does that impact silver? When there's when there's big movements in the 10-year Treasury bond, that's been on CNBC if you ever, check that out once in a while for inflation. A big movement there, and the Nasdaq will move very quickly. Certainly hard and difficult to trade these manually, but you can get in on them at different times. You don't have to be on a 5-minute chart. You can see it be affected, really quickly. So this also just affects sectors, right? So if the airline sector or a specific airline, if United Airlines moves very quickly and Delta hasn't, Delta will catch up. If the airlines have taken a huge hit, the hospitality, the hotel, there are different correlations between So many different instruments, and that's what I really, really love about Epic Follow and the setup here. So as we get going into this, just keep in mind some of the perks here is that this is great for algo trading. You don't have to be in the high-speed computing platform that is the exact millisecond. You can still get in on some of these setups. Let's shift focus now and get started with the actual indicator and the setup for the strategy. So if you looked at the other videos related to Epic Bid, Epic Profit, some of our other products, you know that I like to get a visual first. Everything we try to code is really always meant to be algo driven in the, when it's ready. At the same time, because working with strategies, you're disabling them, enabling them, every time you're going to configure them, there's just a little bit more work in order to set up and adjust the settings. I really like to get the indicators set up first, and then at the same time, after that, use the same settings for the strategy. So the setup here is a little bit different than your typical setup because you have two different data series. And that's because you're following two different instruments. And again, this is another reason why this type of setup is great for algo trading, and it's not always great to be manually trading this. So we have a pretty basic setup here. We have two different data series. One is the MNQ 5-minute, one is the micro gold 5-minute. Nothing too crazy or special with the data series, just defaults. Then we have the Epic Follow indicator. And again, this is actually pretty basic too. We will get into the strategy related, but it's going to use the same settings, except then you have the profit and target, and stop loss, stuff like that. But as far as the actual setup here, the main settings are what instrument do you want to follow, and the correlation 5-minute bar and correlation period. This is the biggest setting that makes the impact is how far of a correlation difference. This is one you want to optimize, but the correlation difference, something like negative 0.7 to negative 0.85, somewhere in that range tends to be pretty good. But again, each instrument correlates differently. You might find that they correlate reverse, right? So there is an option in the strategy to just do the reverse. So you don't necessarily want to just have a default for every single instrument, of course. Now, the same thing with the directional bias. What this means is when this is happening, when the correlation difference is occurring, which direction are we going to go? This is what's going to tell us, oh, it's changing big in in the micro Nasdaq. What's that going to do to gold? And if you find things that are correlated in a way that you'd want to be going long and not going short, this is where you're basing it on the correlation EMA of the primary data series, which in this case is gold, or the correlation EMA. So that's basically just setting a bias for which direction to go. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we have here. There was one other setting that said trend, and I set that to 4, and you'll see why here in a second. So what you have here is the micro Nasdaq. Today is July 13th, and looks like this is the date here of these. So maybe I'm behind a little bit. There was some good setups though that were present there. So let's see what that was. And let's just get a feel for what this is doing. So here in the Nasdaq, you have, let's see, show data box. Here in the Nasdaq, you have Nasdaq going down, some pretty solid red bars. This was around 2 in the morning. And you have gold going up, some pretty solid bars. You start to see the negative correlation reach the threshold of the negative 0.7 in terms of correlation. The first 3 dots are when it's reached that point, but there was a setting on the indicator, if you were to look at this, required trend count for signal. So we have that set to 4. And because we have that set to 4, it's not giving us the arrow to short here. Why is it saying to short? Well, because this is going pretty far out of correlation. It's been doing it for a number of bars now. And again, this is what's so great. You don't have to be the high-speed computing power getting in on this. You can wait 2 or 3 bars, 4 bars, really. And then what happens? Well, with this far out of correlation, that was the signal to short gold at that time, because it had been going up so fast, and the NQ was not in correlation. Let's see if we can see some other. And you know, it's a little bit scary sometimes when you look at this, right? Because look, I mean, and if you ever compare, you know, Nasdaq to ES, or if you ever compare Bitcoin to Ethereum, or anything that correlates so heavily, you're almost looking at the same chart sometimes. It's a little bit scary. Not directly, not exactly, but if you're looking at it a lot of times, it's very, very much in correlation. Again, we have more signals. Kind of surprised this didn't trigger here, but that's because likely it was not looking at 10 bars. I'm sure if we changed that to something like 5 in correlation period, it would have. Let's see another good setup. Because of this, in terms of, because of being so far, usually in correlation, being so far different, you can pretty much set your stop loss to be something not too crazy. You know, it depends on the time frames and everything, of course. But here you have a very solid red candlestick, large, engulfing, larger than anything else around, coming up here on, looks like that was probably the market open, 7:30. And it was going up while gold was going down. Again, reached the threshold of 0.7. First 3 bars we ignored. Sometimes this is great because you don't want, the first bar could be a fluke, 2 bars, 3 bars. Okay, by the 4th bar, or maybe the 3rd bar, that would have been a good entry. Either of these, really either of these 3 would have been okay. Set your stop loss, not, you know, a bit. You don't want to be stopped out too quickly, but you set your stop loss there, and you could have reversed just 3 or 4 candles at that point. Don't have to stay in these trades all that long. Again, here you have Nasdaq going down, gold going up, signal, several bars, about 4 bars from there. So, of course, different backtesting results, different instruments are always going to give you, different setups. But the idea is, when the correlation is really off, and different things are going to be affected. This is gold. Well, it could be oil. We could be looking at the S&P, the micro ES. Let's just do that for a second. Actually, let's just take a look. Oh, we have to change more than just the label. What am I missing here? I guess I just need to add it from down from up here. So let's change this to be the micro ES. Same 5-minute. Likely that killed our indicator here because it was using that. So we add an epic follow. And then Q921. Leave all the defaults here except for trend count. We'll set to 4. These move, if you've ever traded the Nasdaq and and the ES, they move in sync pretty close. So there may not be as many setups. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. You're looking at 2 different instruments, but chart looks pretty much the same, right? They're very, very much in correlation. When they're not, we should get a signal. We haven't gotten one in that setup, but we will, I'm sure. Let me make sure I have... it's because I set it to MNQ, MNQ. It's comparing itself to itself, so it's very much in correlation. We need to change that to MES. And now I'm sure we will see some setups. Let's see. When are they not in correlation? They are so close. Here, but I don't know if it reached the threshold of the signal. Let's just change that to maybe be 2 instead of 4. So again, because these are so heavily in correlation, you're not going to get as many symbols with the S&P. It's possible you do if you start comparing maybe a different time frame. This would have been a good setup. You know, it's very clear here. You've got a major move. This is actually a perfect setup. This is exactly what Epic follows here for. Something that is so heavily in correlation and looks to be, again, at market open, 7:30. Big, solid red bar with the Nasdaq. S&P is going up. We avoid the first entry, the first correlation. We're negative 0.8 almost. Second candle, still there, out of correlation. And boom, we then enter, and we would have gotten a pretty solid setup. Right around the turnaround bars here. That'd be great for Epic U-turn. Another product to get in on that. So that kind of gives you a good explanation of the general setup of this. Let's move on now into the strategy setup. All right. I've been wanting to highlight different features with each different product that I'm highlighting, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on Strategy Analyzer at the moment, but I do want to show you a couple cool features that try to show a couple new features each time I'm in here because there's so many. But I am just going to show you a few basics. So I'm going to load up a template. If you're a subscriber of NashTech or a lifetime user of NashTech, we often update, well, we don't often, every 2 weeks at least, we update these templates for all of the, we have servers running optimization templates pretty much 24/7 in our offices. So with that, if you're a trial user, you can still download them. They're about 30 days old at that point. But if you are a lifetime or a subscriber, make sure you go download the latest templates. It's at www.nashtech.xyz/templates. So here, this is kind of what we were looking at. This was 88 trades, 6 months of testing, MGC with MNQ. So that was 0.75. It's a little slight different than what we had. And we were looking at profit targets of, looks like we have a profit target set here of only looking for 20 ticks. So shouldn't be too hard. And we actually leave a wider stop loss. So this is more of a scalping setup, really. Please select an instrument. Let's see, MNQ. By the way, don't trust anything any of these systems give you. Until you're live trading on a sim first. I'm going to have another video where I highlight the exact steps of how to take your strategies live. But don't trust, just because you get a green graph and just because you get a high profit factor, don't trust whatever the results say. Sometimes people spend a lot of time, micros, okay. They spend a lot of time trying to get this to be perfect, like they're solving a math problem. And at the end of the day, it doesn't completely matter. All right, so pretty good amount of testing here. From the 1st of the year to the 7th, that's 7 months of testing for back testing on Strategy Analyzer. And the results here, pretty solid. This is one I would definitely set up on a sim account and let it run on the servers. A good test would generally be to also change this around. So let's take out a month. Still a profit factor of over 2. What if we were just looking at the last month? By the way, I don't know what these results are, so don't be shocked if they're not. So it's still in the green. Not a bad setup. This is something I would look at. So gold following big movements in the Nasdaq. Let's see. At the beginning of the month, wasn't so great. But overall, again, we were looking at several months back testing. So you'll want to optimize it. But what I'm going to cover now within Strategy Analyzer that I haven't covered in the past videos is something pretty cool where it says show log. I've worked with Strategy Analyzer a lot. I know a lot of the tips and tricks and all the cool bells and whistles, but for some reason I just never clicked that. And it's pretty cool because if you haven't saved these as templates and you've done a lot of back testing over the last, whatever time frame, months, weeks, all of your, whenever I heard of Strategy Analyzer logs, I always assumed that they were talking about, error logs or something like in the logs tab in NinjaTrader, things like that. But they're actually talking about every time you've hit run, the optimizations and the strategies are saved here, which is really cool because now you can right click, filter by strategy, epic follow, right click, filter by instrument. Let's say I only want MGC. And now we can start to sort what are our highest profit factors, what are the number of trades, what's the biggest, the max drawdown, and you see all the ones we just ran. 2.12 profit factor for this time frame from January. So all the ones we just ran, you can also see it here, July 12th, 2021. That was a 3-minute. That was something else we never tried changing on here. The more results you can get with changing different time frames and changing different months back testing, if you can get some pretty consistent results, you will appreciate that much more. Because 1 minute, a 1 minute time frame difference, this is still green, right? So we've done different months, mini months, fewer months, and we're still in the green. We'll go back now. We'll go from March. So we're looking at gold on a 3-minute. May not always be, but here we are, green again. So really, I do trust this setup to go on a simulator account. It would pass my personal threshold of what I would want to be looking at. Okay, so keep in mind when you're looking at the charts, you're going to see epic follow, but you're not going to see the two different data series when you're in Strategy Analyzer. You're just going to see the correlation piece down here with the white dots of where it would enter. It entered this a little early. If the stop loss was tight, it would not have been good. But you had another entry down here that would have hit. This is just set up for single entry, so it would not have fired multiple times. But, okay. Now we're going to move and shift focus to one of my favorite ways of backtesting because I don't really trust Strategy Analyzer. It's just, there's a lot of things that go into this, the way it closes on the bar. Sometimes the stop market orders, I don't see firing in Strategy Analyzer. There's been a couple other things. Tick replay is going to give you very different results if you're entering intrabar, things like that. But I want to showcase market replay. All right, to enable market replay, you're going to go up to connections, disconnect from whatever connection you're using, and go into connections and connect to playback connection. Whenever you're adding strategies when market replay is enabled, you'll see playback 101 as the account. And I'm going to go ahead and enable it. I have the same settings. I just opened up the same template for gold. So it's following the MNQ, negative 0.075, left all the other defaults. We have a market order, wait 1 bar from the signal to enter. We're looking at a wider stop loss, which isn't common, but this is what's been back testing out the best with gold. So it's a quick profit target. It's a little bit more of a scalp. I think it's looking for volatility, and it knows the stop loss is going to be there, but it's probably going to be choppy, and we're going to get the profit we're looking at. So we enable this, and now we've got playback here, and we're looking from the 7th of July 2021, and here we have the option to fast forward, rewind. It'll go back to that time, and we can hit start. So I don't remember exactly where the setups were, but this is just the basics of how market replay works. It's likely downloading the data from that time period at the moment. Looks like it is. Hasn't caught up to where we're at. Here we go. Okay, so this is going to go at 50 times the speed. So they're on a 5-minute bar. If you wanted it to go, 8 times the speed, not quite as fast as it was going through, you can obviously set that to be, so 5-minute bar is going to finish pretty quickly. We can change this to be something like 50 times the speed, and you'll watch that bar become very quick. It's a 5-minute bar, now it's done. There's the next 5-minute bar. So with any setup, with any indicators, this is another way to test with market replay. 500 times the speed. These bars are going to start popping out quickly. But this way you can kind of, if you're not live trading on a chart and you want to sort of replay what happened, that's going to be pretty much your safest bet with market replay. Or so. I don't know. So appreciate your time. Please like, subscribe, any type of thing or any type of setup you want to see, any tutorial you want to see, whether it's NinjaTrader, strategy optimization, anything related to the Epic indicator modules. If you're looking for a setup that you would like to see, we've done so many of these now, it doesn't have to be all that expensive. So reach out to us, please, and let us know what you want to see more of, and we will make a video on that. Okay, thank you guys very much.